What if a courtroom, a place we usually think of as pretty intimidating, became this global symbol for kindness? It sounds unlikely, right? Well, that's the story of Judge Frank Caprio. His courtroom videos went viral, not for some crazy legal drama, but for something much, much rarer, just profound compassion. Seriously, when you picture a courtroom, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's probably stern faces, really complicated roles, and the super rigid black and white version of the law. It can feel so impersonal, like the person behind the ticket just kind of disappears into all the legal jargon. But then all these videos started popping up from Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom over in Providence, Rhode Island, and they showed a totally different side of things. They showed that a courtroom could actually be a place of understanding, of empathy, and yeah, of humanity. Okay, so let's really dive into this. To get what he's all about, we first have to understand the philosophy that drove his decisions. It's a concept you could call judicial compassion. So, what does that actually mean? Well, think of it like this. It's the difference between just asking, "What rule did you break?" and taking a second to ask, "So, why did you break it?" It's a way of seeing the whole person with all their struggles and their good intentions, not just the single violation they're in court for. So let's see this whole idea in action. Our first story is the one that really put Judge Caprio on the map for so many people around the world. And it all started with a simple parking ticket that turned into this global lesson in kindness. So picture this. A father is standing in front of the judge for a minor parking violation. But he's not by himself. He brought his young daughter with him. Judge Caprio sees the little girl, and instead of ignoring her, he decides to bring her into the conversation in this really gentle way. And this is the moment that changes everything. Instead of just laying down a ruling, Judge Caprio leans over and asks the little girl what she thinks he should do about her dad's ticket. And her answer, in all its perfect childhood honesty, is just so simple. I'll forgive him. And boom, that moment right there, that's his whole philosophy in a nutshell. He was so moved by this simple, honest plea, and he understood what the family was dealing with, so he just dismissed the ticket. He chose a moment of human connection over a small fine. And that showed everyone his courtroom was about people first. Now, that first story, that wasn't just a one-off thing. Not at all. It was actually part of a much bigger pattern. In case after case, Judge Caprio showed this incredible focus on the human stories behind the violations. I mean, just look at some of these examples. You've got an unemployed dad facing a stack of tickets while he's just trying to feed his kids. A single mom working two jobs, totally buried under fines. The wife of a deployed soldier who made a mistake while trying to manage everything by herself. These weren't criminals, they were just regular people trying to get through tough times. And that's the common thread you see over and over and over again. In every single one of these hearings, he actually took the time to listen. He didn't just ask about the offense, he asked about their lives. He really wanted to understand the context, the struggle, the real-world stuff that led them to his courtroom in the first place. This quote from the judge himself just says it all, doesn't it? For him, the law was a tool, sure, but it wasn't the whole story. Compassion was that missing ingredient that helped balance the scales, leading to a more humane and maybe a more real kind of justice. But out of all the thousands of stories from his courtroom, there's one that really stands out for its raw, emotional power. It was a case that he himself said was one of the most moving of his entire career. So get this. A 96-year-old man is brought before the court. And what's the charge? Speeding. Right away, you have to be thinking, okay, what could possibly be the story here? And the reason, well, it's just heartbreaking. When Judge Caprio asks him why he was speeding, the elderly man explains with so much emotion that he was taking his son, his adult son, to the hospital for cancer treatment. And he does this every single day. You could just see that Judge Caprio was deeply moved. And this is the critical part. He wasn't looking at a traffic violation anymore. He was looking at a father's incredible love and dedication. He saw a man doing this profound act of service for his family, and he honored it with those words. I mean, the outcome was pretty much a given, right? Of course the fine was dismissed. But it was so much more than that. That moment became this powerful testament. It showed that a legal system can be flexible enough to recognize and honor the deepest human virtues, like a father's love. So, after hearing all these stories, what's the big takeaway? What does this whole approach to justice really teach us? Well, It really comes down to a few core principles. It really boils down to these key things. First, it's about actually trying to understand someone's personal situation. Second, it's about putting the person and their story ahead of the technical violation. Third, it means delivering justice with empathy, not from this cold, detached place. And finally, it's about recognizing and honoring things like service and sacrifice when you see them. At the end of the day, the legacy of all these viral courtroom moments is a really simple but powerful idea. Justice doesn't have to be this cold, impersonal machine. It can, and, maybe it should, have a human heart. Now, that doesn't mean you just throw the law out the window, but it does suggest the law can be applied with a much deeper sense of wisdom. And all of this leaves us with a really interesting question to think about. Judge Caprio's way of doing things makes us challenge our old ideas. It asks us to think about the real role of mercy and understanding inside our legal systems. So I'll leave you with this. To be fair, does justice always have to be rigid? Or could it be that true justice is found in its ability to bend with compassion?